Hello, everyone. What we're going to do in this chapter, we're going to continue talking about different market structure. This one is called oligopoly. Oligopoly is the market that there are few producers that making very similar product or somehow little differentiated. For example, companies that manufacture tennis ball or basketball, very similar like gasoline. Okay, that's what we're going to talk about today. Oligopoly, only a few sellers in the market offer similar or identical products, and their action depends on the action of the other competitor. Um, how many of the goods they can bring to the market or produce depends on how many quantity or how many unit of the goods is produced by their competition. Okay, that's where we get into the game theory. That's kind of bread and butter of the game theory. Somebody make a decision regardless what the other opponent do. What is the best strategic for them to do regardless of what the other guy do. Okay, that's called game theory. We're going to talk about a few of those cases, and you're going to have some of them in your quiz that pretty make it pretty understandable. How people behave in a strategic situation, choose among alternative courses of action, and they must consider how others might respond to this action. That's what game theory is, and it's going to apply to oligopoly. Uh, Again, oligopoly, there is a market, only few sellers that selling identical products or somehow very similar but differentiated. So, tennis ball, good example. Small group of sellers considered oligopolist. The tension between operation and self-interest. Are they going cooperate with each other? They go shake hands like airline did. Okay, back in the days, Braniff and American airline, uh, shake hands, say, okay, let's just charge $100 trip from Dallas to New York, and let's not break this promise. And we're going to see how much they're going to make if they follow that contract. But we know sometimes if one of them kind of cheat and lower the price, give passengers a little bit incentive, coupon, and so on, they can capture the other guy's uh, passenger and they can make more profit. And this is kind of follow the self interest we call, right? How about the other guy does the same? Okay, and we're going to see what happened to the equilibrium and the profit maximization of each company. Uh, Best of cooperating, acting like a monopolist. If they cooperate, they just become a monopolist. Okay, they want to maximize their price, their profit, just like monopolists, and produce a small quantity of output and charge more price for it. And we know, in case of monopolies or competitive uh, monopolist, price is more than marginal cost. Remember, marginal cost equal to marginal revenue. That's the quantity that maximize the profit of the company. Okay, each firm cares only about its own profit, powerful incentives not to cooperate, but they always have the tendency to cheat. Okay. Uh, when we have two firm that making that identical product or similar products, we call it duopoly, which is only have two members decide what quantity to sell. Price is determined on the market by the demand. Remember, the demand facing oligopolies, just like monopoly, is downward sloping, not perfectly competitive market, not just like perfectly competitive market that they're facing the horizontal demand curve. Okay, then let's look at this demand curve here. This demand is scheduled for, let's say, water. Okay, on the first column, it shows the quantity of water can be produced and sold. The price going changes depends on demand curve. Okay, and total revenue created by this water company, it would be on the third column, which is equal to price multiplied by quantity. Each row you multiply those two numbers on the first, second column, then you get this third column. For example, 50 multiplied by 70, the total revenue would be 3,500. Okay. Uh, for a perfectly competitive market, as we know, price equal to marginal cost, and quantity, we call it, is efficient, and welfare economy in society is maximized. But for monopoly, price is more than marginal cost, quantity is lower than the efficient quantity. We already established that on previous chapters. Let's go on. And duopoly, let's say, when they collide, they come shake hand, they said, okay, let's just divide this uh, amount of the water that community need between two of us, and acting like monopoly or maximize our profit. Okay. And when they collide total level of production, what is that going to be? Quantity produced by each member, what's that going to be? If they don't collide and like they cheat, okay, like the example for airline industry, then we're going to see what happened to production level and quantity produced by them. Okay. To do so, we use this game theory, which kind of previously done by Nash uh, uh, equilibrium, but uh, John Nash kind of created this game theory uh, in late 80s or in 80s. Just passed away a few years ago in a car accident. And he was a mathematician. He kind of got interested in economics, and he find this uh, uh, model called game theory using prisoner dilemma. Okay, let's talk about that. Then, what do we mean by collusion? Agreement among firms in a market, how much to produce, what price to charge, and cartel is kind of like that. Just like petroleum oil uh, industries in different countries, they come shake hands. They said, okay, let's just do certain amount of oil in the market and fix the price. And it happened all the time. That's why you see the gasoline keep going up and down, until some of them start cheating and they break down. All right, that's what our agenda is here. We're going to talk about. Again, John Nash was a mathematician um, and created this model using prisoner dilemma. Economic actors interacting with one another, each choose their own best strategy and given the strategies that all the other actors have chosen. All right, let's see what that means. Let's go to it right here. We come back to it. Okay. Here you use actually started with prisoner's dilemma. Okay. The metrics here. Let's say two convicts got captured, Bonnie and Clyde. Okay. Put Bonnie here on top, Clyde here on the horizontal. And when they got captured, uh, policemen talk to them individually. You know how they investigate those prisoners. They take him to a room by individual and says, okay, guy, like for example to Bonnie, if you confess uh, about this crime, who did it, how that happened, and all that, and you get 8 years in prison. Okay. If you do not confess, see the second role here, and if your partner confessed, well, you end up in jail for 20 years. Okay. Right at the bat. What is the best strategy for Bonnie here? To confess or not to confess? Well, of course, to confess, because 8 years is better than 20 years. Okay. All right. How about Clyde? They go take him to the same room and talk about it. They don't know if they don't confess how long they're going to end up in jail. Well, let's say they end up in 1 year, but they don't know that. Okay. They kept him there for right now, but they don't know. Okay. Because Bonnie followed her own self-interest. They didn't want to collide. They didn't want to just shake hands with each other and say, none of us confess. Okay. Even they do, if for the first time, they usually kind of motivated by self-interest. They're going to say, well, I better stay 8 years than 20 years, then I'm going to confess. And Clyde going to do the same thing, right? If he confess, okay, and he end up 8 years, and if he doesn't confess, uh, he might end up in 20 years. Okay. Clyde is orange and Bonnie is kind of grayish blue. All right. Then for that's called Nash equilibrium, right? The best possible outcome for both of them without knowing what the other party is going to do is they both confess, end up with 8 years in prison. Because they don't know that if the other uh, party is going to confess or not, they might end up in 20 years. Then 8 years is better than 20, and they're not going to risk it. They going to both confess. And Nash called this, we call this Nash equilibrium. Okay, Nash equilibrium. Now we're going to apply this to business world of oligopoly and so on. We're going to see different example of this. All right. Okay, then let's go back to where we're before in Nash equilibrium. Okay, then we just talk about that. Then oligopolies better off cooperating and reaching the monopoly outcome. That is true. If both of Bonnie and Clyde agree not to confess, they end up in a year or two or so in prison. But uh, they couldn't because they pursued their own self-interest. They were afraid to end up in jail for 20 years. Okay. Now, if these things repeated a lot between these two parties, they keep doing so and so, end up in prison longer and longer, they might end up to cooperate. They say, well, let's not do that. Okay, let's not cooperate. But for one time, first time they do, they usually pursue their own self-interest. Okay, all right. And this prisoner dilemma that Nash brought into model is used quite a bit in economics and other field also. Okay, but for our case, we want to use it in an oligopoly or duopolistic model, and we're going to see when firm in an oligopoly individually choose product to maximize profit, produce quantity of output greater than level produced by monopoly, but less than produced by competition. And the price is less than the monopoly prices, greater than the competitive price, which is marginal cost. Okay, this is a price effect. Again, if those two oligopolies collide, which means they shake hands, they decide to not to cheat, and they look at the model, see what the demand curve respond, just like monopolies, they're going, divide the production between themselves. But as Nash equilibrium indicate, that's not the case in reality, especially when that's their first time. They're going to cheat. All right, let's go back to just glance through a few of these slides here. Okay. Again, the prisoner dilemma we already did. All right. Again, the prisoner dilemma, the main theme is because each pursue their own self-interest, the two prisoners together, each an outcome that is worse for each of them. Cooperation between the two prisoners is difficult to maintain because cooperation is individually irrational. Okay, these are the assumptions you got to consider. And again, applying the same game theory in oligopoly, that trying to reach the monopoly outcome, similar to the game that the two prisoners play in the prisoner dilemma. And we know the firms are after their own self-interest. How long that cooperation is going to hold until one start to cheating. Even though cooperation or cartel, we call it, would increase their profit, but is not stable based on Nash equilibrium, because each firm has incentive to cheat. Let's use this example here. Okay, let's say Jack and Jill. And Jack and Jill, the profit that each earns from selling water depends on both the quantity he or she chooses to sell and the quantity the other one chooses to sell. They're both selling water. It's similar. Remember, we saw on that table the demand for water in that community. And what was the total revenue? And now let's assume there's just two of them that's selling this water in this community. Jack on the top here, if he produced 40 gallons of water, okay, they have access to community water. If we bring 40 gallons to the market and he can profit $1,600. Okay. And so does Jill. If she brings 40 gallons to the market, her profit's going to be $1,600. Okay. Say if they shake hands and they say, I bring 40, you bring 40, and we all going to go 16 $100 profit. Okay. Um, but let's say if Jack decide uh, bring let's say 30 gallon to the market, so does Jill bring 30 gallon to the market, their profit is higher because the quantity goes lower, demand curve is facing upward sloping. The price is going to be higher and they're going to make more profit. Okay. They're going to shake hands and say, oh, okay, well, let's just stick with this 40 and 40. Okay. And each can make 1,800. Right. Now, let's say one of them started to cheat. Let's say Jack started to bring 40 gallon to the market. Okay. Because he's after to making $2,000 profit, and right, because it's 2,000 is better than 1,600, right? Okay. Well, if Jill does the same thing, well, it's not going to make it $2,000. It's going to be 1,800, right? Then what is the Nash equilibrium? What's the best for both of them do in this market? Okay. For Jill, he better to make 40 gallon, not too cheap. If you make 40 gallon here, right, he's better than 15 gallon. I'm sorry, profit. $1,600 profit is better than $1,500 profit. Or if you still stick with 40 gallon and Jill stayed with 30, and he still is better than 1,800. Okay, that's the best strategy for Jack to do. Stay with 40. Okay, and the same for Jill. Look at the color here, the yellow or pink. Jill is better off to stick with it to make uh, 14 gallon, right? 40 gallon, uh, because he can, 1,600 is better than 1,500. Okay, then what is the Nash equilibrium here? Is the top corner rectangular, which is Jack gets $1,500 profit, so does Jill by producing 40 gallons of uh, water. And that's better off for society too, instead of top right bottom of rectangular that they're making 60 gallon of water for community. Now community end up with 80 gallon, then in this instance it's better for them to cheat. Not for themselves, but for the society. Okay, efficiency is going to be better than if when they collide. Okay, there is numerous example of this game theory. You're going to see some in your quiz. Just pay attention, practice some of them in the text or here, and get the hang of it because it's kind of important topic for macroeconomics business world here. What do we mean by cartel? The cartel is some of those producers of the identical goods like oil. They come shake hand. They said, okay, let's see what is the best for us to do here. How many gallon of barrel of oil we should produce a day to maximize our profit, because that's downward sloping demand curve. They can set that up. We already established those before, right? And they did it in few occasions. Okay, they actually formed in 1960 between Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Saudis, those big uh, uh, oil producing companies, and also they add more to them in 1973 and so on. They control about 80% of the world's oil reserves. That's another concentration of these producers of this product in that market. Okay, about 80%. That's monopoly, right? That if they do cartel, they can monopolize the market. But uh, and they try to raise the price of their product, which is oil, then coordinate reduction in the quantity produced and tries to set production level for each member to maximize their profit. But and we know after a while, one of them start cheating. They produce more to take advantage of it and make more money, and just uh, and they're going to break the cartel. Okay, just like we did the example of Jack and Jill. Okay, uh, that would be the problem because each member of the cartel attempted to increase that production. Okay, that's kind of opposite of the other model we did on Jack and Jill. It just depends on the scenario you set up that uh, matrix for game theory. Each one want to get a larger share of the total profit, and they're going to cheat, and the cartel is going to break up. Uh, well, for the short time, they are successful, like they did in 73, in 84. Every once in a while, they do it, and the last few months, that's why you see the gas prices goes high to the roof until they started cheating, and some other things happen. They're going to break down to normal competition between those oligopolists. Again, in mid 80s, member countries began arguing about production level. Then OPEC was ineffective at maintaining the cooperation, and the prices started going down. And we just studied that before. Also, the demand curve shift to the left because uh, people started, be savvy on using gasoline, not driving as much, trying to call kind of carpooling, and we started to doing electric cars and so on. And when that happened, also the price is going to decrease. And in recent years, less successful at reaching and enforcing agreements because they're all fighting with each other. Okay, that's what the oil prices are always driven by, supply and demand. Another example would be arm races between, let's say, US and Russia. Okay. Is it for them to shake hands to say, okay, let's not just make any arm, uh, military, uh, war equipment, nuclear war, and so on, if that happened? Let's look at the Nash equilibrium on this one here. Uh, Soviet Union and US engaged in a prolonged competition over military power, strategic, build new weapons, or disarm. What is the dominant strategy? As we all see it, and we know that they keep building arms. Why? Okay, let's look at this here. Let's say if US here on the top and Soviet Union in to the left here, do arm race or disarm. Okay. Uh, if they do arm, that they do, we know that they both be in risk. Okay. We don't know if Russia is going to attack US or we're going to attack Russia. We have to have prepared and we have uh, to be equipped with arms. Okay, whatever equipment it is, even nuclear, or disarm, which makes if they don't do build up military arm and we do the same, and uh, uh, but we're going to be weak. We are at risk and weak. Okay, but they are the orange part here on the right top corner. Soviet Union will be safe and powerful. Okay. How about on the corner on the down here to the right? And we disarm, they disarm, we both be safe. If we are, okay, come down to this column under the US, and they disarm, we are safe and powerful, and they are at risk. How do we find the Nash equilibrium here? Again, use the same method that we use in prisoner dilemma or Jack and Jill. Well, let's look at example for US. It's better be armed. Okay, it's better, US better to be armed because here US is at risk. Is better than to be at risk and weak. Okay, also we are at risk, but we're not weak. Okay, also here on the bottom part, US is safe and powerful, which is better than an US to be safe. Same way as USSR. They better be armed, okay? Because USSR at risk is better than to be USSR uh, uh, at risk and weak, okay? Then the conclusion would be the top corner to the left is the Nash equilibrium, this, which is kind of what is going on now, been going on for a long time. That's all racing for be more powerful military wise and army equipment and so on. Okay, that's again another example for Nash equilibrium. Uh, let's talk about cooperation. Okay, two companies own a common pool of oil strategy. Each company drill one well, and each company drill a second well and get more oil. What is the dominate strategy? Well, let's look at it here. All right, that's another example. Let's say Exxon and Chevron, both doing the same thing, drilling oil and selling oil. Okay. If Exxon Mobil drill two wells, okay, he gets about $4 million profit. Okay. If you only drill one well, he only gets $3 million profit. Okay. And what is the best strategy, regardless what Chevron does for ExxonMobil? Well, just do 4 million dollar profit. Do two wells. Okay. This is kind of like prisoner dilemma. How about Chevron? If he does two wells, he make $4 million profit. Is okay. And better than $3 million. Let's come down the orange part. Better than $3 million profit if he does one well. Okay. Then the dominant strategy for both of them would be making two wells. And that's also good for society because more oil available, the price is going to be lower, and more oil would be in the market than them two cooperate, shake hands, let's say, let's just do one well each. Also, they're going to make more profit. They do one well each. They come up with $5 million profit each. But that's not stable. That's not Nash equilibrium. One of them going cheat and is going to drain the other guy's profit. And if one time deal like that, they do it, they don't trust each other. They just started doing two wells. But if these things continue happening, they realize, well, they're better off to cooperate and create a cartel. But it's still that's not 100% given. It's still might cheat. Okay, that's again, this is the game theory in a nutshell with different scenarios you're going face in textbook, in businesses. Also you're going to see some in quiz. The dominated strategy, the welfare economy is what is good for economy. Remember, welfare economy, well-being of economy, of course, in this scenario is non-cooperative. It's better they cheat. They both make, you know, drill two well, four well altogether instead of two wells together. That's better for society. Non-cooperative equilibrium may be bad for society and the players. Example, arm race game, common resources game. Non-cooperative equilibrium may be good for society in this case, the oil. Like oligopoly is trying to obtain monopoly profits, quantity and price is closer to the optimal level. Okay, then it depends on the scenario. In our case, it's bad for society, okay? But in the case of oil, between these two, cheating, non-cooperative, actually is better for the society. Again, it depends on the scenario. Uh, but why people sometimes cooperate? Why these end up to shake hands? They said, okay, let's do it. Let's cooperate. Because they keep, doing that, losing money. They said, okay, repeat the game. If it's the game repeated so many times, agree on penalties. If one cheats, both have incentive to cooperate. As long as the players care enough about future profits, they can cooperate. Okay? They kind of will to choose to forego the one-time gain from defection. All right. Then better strategy in the long term would be return to cooperation after a period of non-cooperation. We call that tit for tat. Okay, repeated prisoners drama, best strategy of the tit for tat. Players start by cooperating, then do whatever the other players did last time. Start out friendly, penalize unfriendly players, forgives them if warranted. Okay, that's called tit for tat. How about the government policy towards oligopoly? Government can sometimes improve market outcomes. Remember one of those principles. Policymakers try to induce firms in an oligopoly to compete rather than cooperate, like the ExxonMobil and Chevron case. Government prohibit them from shaking hands and making a cartel, even behind the curtain. They won't even allow those CEO to talk sometimes. Okay? Move the allocation of resources close to the social equilibrium. We call that antitrust laws. The Sherman Antitrust Act, which created 1890, elevated agreements among oligopolies from an unenforceable contact to a criminal conspiracy. They don't want those cartels cooperate. Another one, Clayton Act of 1914, further strengthened the antitrust law, used to prevent mergers. Mergers, when two companies come merge together, they said, "Oh, we are one. We become one." Okay. Let's say Hewlett Packard and Dell Computer become one uh, company that making computer. They can, monopolize the market. Used to prevent oligopolies from polluting. This scenario it happened before between Robert Crandall, president of American Airlines back in the days, and Howard Putnam, president of Braniff Airlines back in the days. Crandall even say, "Oh, okay, I think it is dumb as hell to sit here and pound the effing out of each other, and neither one of us making a effing dime." The Putnam says, "Do you have a suggestion?" Crandall says, "Yes, I have a suggestion for you. Raise your effing fare to 20%. I will raise mine the next morning." Yeah, this happened actually between these two CEO, the presidents of these two airline companies, which is they want what they're saying. They say, "Okay, let's just shake hands and cooperate. Raise the price. We make more money." Yeah. That's why we created the Sherman Antitrust Act that prohibits competing executive from even talking about fixing the price. Okay, it's a pretty strict law here. It happened with a lot of companies. They got caught and they got fined quite a bit. Controversies over antitrust policy used to condemn some businesses' practices whose effects are not obvious. Like, okay, some of them it's not as obvious as like, American Airline and Braniff, like resale price maintenance, predatory pricing, buying. What are those cases? Okay, I'll just glance through these here. Resale price maintenance is, we call it fair trade, require retailers to charge customers a given price. Let's say somebody make a hammer, and that hammer can be sold in uh, Home Depot or the other guy or Sam's or Walmart or whatever it is, and the retailer, the manufacturer says, "I want you all to sell it the same price." Okay, might seem anti-competitive, but prevents the retailers from competing on prices. Okay, Walmart might say, okay, I sell this hammer at $10. Okay, but I give you a coupon, buying something else for 20% off. They can compete. Okay, that's called resale maintenance, resale price maintenance. The defenders of this act, they said, well, not aim at reducing competition is a legitimate goal. Some retailers offer services. Okay. What is predatory pricing, or sometimes called dumping? Charge prices that are too low. When manufacturers bring that item to the market, they price it so low that want to destroy those other ones that are making that product. The Chinese did that and run them out of business. Then after that, when they dominate the market like a monopolist, they can charge anything they want to, right? Until they maximize their profit. Okay. Is anti-competitive. Price cuts made intended to drive other firms out of the market. But the skeptics, they say this might not work. Not a profitable strategy. Is there going to be price war to drive out of the rival prices or they're even below the cost? Okay. And tying is when you offer two goods together at a single price. Okay. Expand market power. That case of the Microsoft when he was selling, operating system. But well, the skeptics saying that it cannot increase the market power by uh, binding these two goods together. Like what? Like uh, two product that kind of goes together. We're going to talk about the Microsoft product, Windows operating system, and their software. There's a lot of cases like that. Uh, okay. Form of the price discrimination, time may increase profit. Okay. Here, the U.S. government's lawsuit against Microsoft in 1998, the central issue was time. Should Microsoft be allowed to integrate its internet browser into its Windows operating system? Okay. Well, these two are different. Okay. Uh, Bundling to expand market power into the market of the internet browsers would deter other software companies from entering the market and offering new products. Okay, this lawsuit, what happened in late 90s, actually Linux, another operating system in Europe, sue Microsoft, and I think they won. Okay, there's a lot of article regarding this case on Google if you all want to follow this case, which is pretty interesting. Uh, Google it and study some of those articles. What was the case about? The lawsuit against Microsoft regarding tying, okay, which is integrating internet browser uh, with the Microsoft operating system. Okay, like you're in Windows, your search engine, you go to uh, Google, or you go to Firefox, or you go to Internet Explorer. Okay, when he does the operating system, but you can have Windows, but go to the Firefox or search engine of Google, but he kind of want to integrate that window operating system with uh, Explorer. Okay, some of you that into computer software, hardware, just glance through this slide here and go a little bit deeper, which is more article is in the Facebook ManQ, and also uh, OpenStax, or Google it and study a little bit more. All right. Again, Microsoft responded, new features into old products, natural part of technological process. Like cars include CD players, air conditioning, cameras, built-in flashes. That was their argument. Operating system added many features to the Windows, previously standalone products. Now computers have more reliable and easier to use. Integration of internet technology, the next step. That's natural, he was calling it. That's what, Bill Gates was arguing here. And this agreement extend of Microsoft market power. The government says, no, you capturing the market power. You're trying to create monopoly. And the government, more than 80% of the government says more than 80% of the personal computer PCs use the Microsoft operating system, substantial monopoly power. Okay, we're not going to let you do that. Okay. Then Microsoft saying software market is always changing. Competitors, Apple, Mac, Linux, operating systems, they were the competition. They were the one that brought the suit against Microsoft. And low price, limited market power. When they tie in, they can have the lower price and uh, run them out of business. In November 1998, ruling was Microsoft great monopoly power, illegally abused that power. They lost. Okay. In June 2000, Microsoft to be broken up into two companies, operating system and application software. 2001 appeals the court, overturned the breakup order. And September 2007, Justice Department wanted to settle the case quickly. All right. And they settled in 2000. Again, just look at this case also. It's very fascinating. What we did here, we just talk about oligopoly, okay? When few companies making similar products, okay? This is different than competitive monopolies, where the product differentiation is more in there and more players in there than oligopoly. And we kind of talk about game theory, which is pretty popular tool for macroeconomic users. If some of you want to stay in business and get the hang of this model here now. All right, that's it for today. And so long.